I'm just going to read some points from the protocol for remote meetings. Please only speak when invited to by the chair. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and direct all communication by the chair. Please ensure that mics are muted when you're not speaking. When speaking, be succinct and do not exceed the allocated time frames highlighted at the start of the meeting. If you're referring to a specific page or picture in a report, please refer to the page number. If you are having technical difficulties, please use the chat function in Google Meet to alert the meeting. Please do not use the chat function for putting formal questions to the subcommittee. Any persistent disruptive behavior will result in removal from the meeting. Applicants and all other applicants will be asked to leave the proceedings after their item is completed. Once all applications have been considered, any remaining parties will be asked to log out of the meeting. Please do so properly so that councillors will have the opportunity to deliberate and make a decision on each application. Each party will be notified of the decision within 5 working days. Please could I ask the subcommittee to appoint a chair?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Pluvier.
Thank you. Okay. First of all, we should just check who's here and introduce ourselves. I'm Councillor Pluvier from London Fields Ward. My colleague is Councillor.
I'm Councillor Brian Bell, representing Brunswood.
Thank you. I have here a legal officer.
Good afternoon. I'm Amanda North from Legal Services.
And licensing officer.
Good afternoon. I'm Channing Riviere, Principal Licensing Officer.
And
Subhashri Ramana, Principal Licensing Officer.
Thank you. Peter Gray, who is our Governance Officer, who's introduced already. Oh God, just messed up. Okay. Right. Sorry, I've lost view. I do apologise. I need to sort that out. No, I carry on. Sorry. I don't know why this has happened. Okay. So we have the police here.
Good afternoon, Mr. Kerry Ryan.
And then we have the applicant for the first item. Who do we have for the first?
Councillor, it's Gary Grant. I'm the barrister for the applicant for Bird, and I'll ask my client to introduce herself so I don't mangle her very beautiful surname.
Hi, I'm Lena Zagrzecki, GM from Hart Shoreditch, which will be looking after Bird as well.
And I'm also assisted by my licensing consultant, Angelique Ferrer. And joining the call, I'm not sure if he's already able to make it, is Guy Hicks, who's the author of the expert report and will be familiar with you in his previous guise as your licensing sergeant.
Okay, thank you. I'm still struggling because I've lost full view of everybody and I can't share this meeting with this like it is. I'm really sorry. And I keep pressing the right thing and it's not working.
Councillor Pluvier, do you want to log out of the meeting for a minute and then log back in? It might rectify.
Yeah, that might help. I do apologise, but I have to do that. I will do that. Thank you.
Yes. Councillor Bell, are you're in attendance?
He is in attendance.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, I know. Just in case there's a backup. In case Councillor Pluvier isn't able to resolve her thing, he may have to step in.
Sorry, Chair, you're muted at the moment.
If we've introduced everybody for the first item, I'll move on to look at the agenda properly. Apologies for absence we've had from Councillor James Peters, who can't attend. Are there any declarations of interest? None from me.
None, Chair.
Thank you. We'll just do the minutes of the previous meetings. The 17th of November I attended, that's fine. 13th of July, Councillor Bell,
Yeah, those are correct record.
happy with those. And I think we both attended the 25th of August and I'm happy with those.
Go ahead.
Okay, that's lovely, thank you. The licensing committee hearing procedure is as set out on the first blue sheet. And we'll be going through this, I think, pretty much for both items. So we've done step 1. Step 2, the licensing officer will outline the report. Step 3, the applicant will present their case. Then we'll hear from responsible authorities, other persons, discussion through the chair, before closing remarks and final clarification. And for consideration of these hearings, we hear them, we meet after the all the items are concluded. So at the end of the first item, those people leave and we meet at the end. We carry on the second item. Does anybody have any questions? Are you happy with the procedure, Amanda?
The procedure's fine. I just wanted to remind you that Mr. Grant has made a request about the length of time for his presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Grant, generally we don't, we try and stick to the time if that's possible. And we talked about this before. We don't think that you need particularly extra time, but obviously, I mean, I don't clock watch. We don't have a traffic light signal here. So if we feel your stuff that you're saying that we want to hear, that's fine. But
I was going to ask maybe if you could indulge me with 10 minutes, and there's a particular reason why. Both of the responsible authorities, so Ms. Ryan and Mr. Riviere, I think it's fair to say haven't had the fullest opportunity to consider our bundle for various reasons I don't need to go into. The application before you, as I know you'll be aware from my written submissions, which I think you've had the opportunity to read, is radically different to the application actually submitted. And I'd like just to beef out a bit to assist the authorities so they're aware of precisely what changes are being made.
Well, I'm happy for you to cover the changes. Obviously, they'll be covered by Suba in her introduction, and they obviously make a big difference. But what I don't want is lots of information about the splendidness of this new venue, if you don't mind.
Yes,
that makes sense.
I'll keep that for myself.
Thank you. Okay. Right, in that case, we'll move on to the application for the premises license for Bird, and I'll hand over to Subu to outline the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Licensing service on receipt of an application for a premises license under Section 17 of the Licensing Act 2003 for Bird, basement 61 to 67, Great Eastern Street, for regulated entertainment, late night refreshment, and to authorize supply of alcohol consumption on the premises. Since the draft of the report, the applicant has provided an additional submission in which they have reduced their hours. So the core hours for the licensable activities and for the sale of alcohol are Monday to Thursday from 8 to 2300, Friday and Saturday from 8 to midnight, Sunday from 10 to 23, and with a 30 minutes closing time after these terminal of these hours. This information has been circulated to all the members, but representation still remains from the licensing and from the police. I have nothing else to add. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. If we don't need any further clarification of that, I'll hand over now to the applicant to make your case, please.
Thank you, councillors. Councillors, we're aware we're in the middle of the Shoreditch, well, we're not in the middle, we're at the edge of the Shoreditch special policy area. And we know there have been particular issues in Shoreditch since the reopening of hospitality on the 19th of July this year. And we've been engaging with the authorities, and it's in deference to their concerns at the scope of the original application that we've radically revised it. And what is before you, and I should say the whole business model for this premises has had to be altered as a result of those representations and the situation that we're aware of in Shoreditch at the moment. So we are not seeking early hours license anymore. We are seeking core hours, and it will be a food-led premises. I can indicate that the fine dining restaurant condition, having spoken to both Kerry Ryan and Mr. Riviere from licensing, they would prefer that's amended to the following wording, which I'll read out. And that is that from 8 p.m, the sale of alcohol shall be ancillary to a substantial table meal. We were originally offering fine dining, but if that's seen as too elitist, we're happy for that to be a substantial table meal. And the reason we say from 8 p.m, that you would have picked up already from our submissions and the presentation, is that before 8 p.m, in other words, the daytime and early evening hours, which are not of concern to the special policy issues, it will be used for things like fashion launches, for local digital artists to show their stuff on the enormous projection walls. It will allow charity lunches, for example. So that's why we suggest that the alcohol being ancillary to now a substantial table meal is from 8 p.m, and that prevents it becoming the sort of premises that could contribute towards the issues in the special policy area. I should add, planning in 2019 granted 2 a.m. hours for the basement. So your planning colleagues in 2019 were happy with 2 a.m. And you'll note that there are no residential objections to this application. What we are also offering are queuing, dispersal and smoking policies, and you'll find those all within our bundle. I can point them out if need be. But when it comes to noise and nuisance, you're entitled to give weight to the fact that the environmental health team, and that means both your enforcement team and your protection teams, have both agreed conditions and withdrawn their objection to the grant of this application. You have within the bundle a report by Guy Hicks, who you will know from age-old work, who's looked at the revised application, and he has said that in his view, this is not the sort of application which, if granted, is going to have an adverse impact on your special policy area. Because of the sort of food we are serving, it is likely to attract the mature clientele. They are not the sort of clientele, albeit with notable exceptions, who tend to, they're not the party crowd, which have caused the problems in Shoreditch. Also, perhaps most importantly, we're in the basement of a hotel. And it's all effectively, this is a joint venture between the hotel owners and the operators of Bird. Our nearest residents are our hotel residents. So in other words, this has to be self-policing. If our guests or this premises make a nuisance of themselves, either in the premises or when they arrive or when they leave, the first residents who will be disturbed will be the Hilton Hart Hotel residents who are trying to sleep directly above us. And that's an important factor, as is the fact that the hotel itself has a license which allows non-residents to attend the bars and restaurants in the hotel until core hours. In other words, the same hours that we're suggesting for the basement. So we are not sticking in a totally new or out of hours license in this building. There is already one there. We thought it was fairer to put in a bespoke application to cover Bird if you permit it to open, rather than simply extend the red line of the basement under the hotel license, which would have been an alternative, but we think this gives a bespoke license to what is a unique and bespoke premises in the case. It's a small premises. The maximum fire safety capacity is 126, but we anticipate there will be less people there when they're seated at tables and dining. And you have a DPS who's, I'll call her Lena to save my blushes, who has the seal of approval and indeed praise from Guy Hicks, who dealt with her when he was your licensing officer. She's also the general manager of the hotel. She's an extremely responsible and professional operator of hospitality premises, and she's happy to ask any questions that you may have. Your special policy, I know this is an extremely experienced licensing committee. It's not absolute. You're entitled to depart from it where you have the sort of application like today that's likely to ornament Shoreditch and not add to the problems that you have in the area. So we're here to answer any questions, but I hope that gives you a quick summary. And I've only got a minute after my time.
That's very, very helpful. Thank you very much, Mr. Grant. Do we have any clarifications? No, nothing. Lovely. Okay, then we'll go over to Kerry Ryan, I think, to hear from the police. Is that possible?
Yeah, good afternoon, thank you. So we know that most of Shoreditch is now a special policy area, and we know why that is. We know that there's saturation of licensed premises in Shoreditch. Now, I've been a police officer serving in Hackney for nearly 22 years now, and so I've seen a lot of changes, and one of the biggest changes I've seen has been in Shoreditch. So I spend pretty much every weekend one of my weekend nights in Shoreditch, so I see this firsthand. And I've seen the levels of violence, violent crime, serious assaults, sexual assaults, and levels of intoxication rise to a level that I've never seen before. Especially intoxication, I haven't seen levels like this ever before. There's a very young crowd out at the moment in Shoreditch, and they're drinking very, very heavily. So alcohol does appear to be the main contributing factor. Having said that, I do welcome the reduction in hours from the applicant and the amended condition in relation to food, alcohol being ancillary to food, and that has allayed many of our concerns. Just a quick point on the capacity. I know Mr. Grant said it was 126 for the fire risk assessment. Would we be able to put a number on it for fine dining, just so that maybe we could condition that? Maybe that would allay even more of our concerns. But mainly our concern is it's another premises license in Shoreditch. Obviously and preferably, we would like to have a fine dining restaurant rather than a bar. So at the moment, waiting for the discussion phase, I think most of our concerns are allayed at the present.
Cool. Thank you very much, Tracy. Sorry, Kerry. How am I doing? Apologies. Over to who's speaking from licensing? Is that you, Channing?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So similar to what PC Ryan has laid out, it is in the Shoreditch Special Policy area. As discussed by Mr. Grant, we would be much happier if the fine dining condition was amended to ancillary to food. And we're very happy with the significant reduction in hours that's been proposed. And really, it remains at the discretion of the committee whether they feel that this would be satisfactory within the SPA. I mean, most of our concerns have been allayed by what's been proposed with the reduction in hours and with the ancillary to food condition. And nothing further to add, Chair.
Thank you. Colleague, Councillor Bell, do we have any questions, clarifications at this point?
Are we at discussion stage, yeah?
Yeah, we'll move straight into that.
I think, like everyone else, when I initially saw the application, it was quite frightening in terms of how late it was. But as the amendments have come and as the hours have gone down and the other suggested conditions have gone on, I think I'm a lot happier with it. And it does begin to make the argument for an exception within the SPA.
Mr. Grant, maybe we could you could respond to the suggestion on a capacity number for the fine dining. Is that possible now? I realise it may not be if you're still making changes.
Yes, I think I've seen 126 customers we could offer.
Okay. I Do we have that sort of set out? I mean, is there? It's difficult because it's dual use, isn't it? So presumably you don't have a sort of.
Yeah, I could I say perhaps from 8 p.m. so it fits in
Yeah.
with the. So from 8 p.m. The maximum capacity of the premises shall be 126 customers, but excluding staff.
Okay. That's quite a high number. Is that happy? Are we happy to have that condition if we? I mean, does that allay? Is that that was you asked for it, Kerry? Is that it does? It certainly isn't smaller than the 126. It's
Our restaurant above, Barboon, which is operating already, we've got 128
okay, cool. That's
capacity. It just is exactly the same size.
That's really helpful. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Right. Does anybody have anything they want to add? And do we need summing up? I mean, I think, as Channing said, it is ultimately up to the committee to make the decision regarding it being in the special policy area. I think I'm minded now to say we've actually come to the end, unless anybody has anything else they want to add. Do you want to sum up? Do you want to add anything else?
No, I'll simply add this. The hotel itself, under Lena's management, has now operated for a couple of years.
Yeah.
It hasn't had a single complaint relating to noise or crime or disorder. She runs a tight ship at the moment. There's a track record of her doing so. She's likely to do the same if you grant a license to the basement.
Okay.
And I'll leave it there.
Okay. Just check with Councillor Bell. Are you happy for us to pull this to a conclusion?
Yes, I've heard everything I need to. Thanks.
Okay. Right. In that case, I will say we've finished with that, and we'll move on to the next item once everybody's kind of shuffled around a bit. So the people for the bird application, you will get the decision afterwards as soon as possible. We'll make our decision at the end of this meeting rather than now, as we do in normally, not online. And I think you can probably phone the licensing department to get the decision tomorrow. Am I right? And the written decision will be within 5 days.
That's right, Chair.
Is that okay?
Yes. That's
Yes,
correct.
thank you very much for your consideration.
Okay. In that case, thank you very much for coming along, and we'll move on now to
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the application. It isn't an application, which is the matter of the Unit 7 lounge. And I'd like to ask, oh, first of all, check we've got everybody here. I do apologise. Have we got everybody here for that? We've only got, yes, we have.
We've got everyone, I think. Yeah.
And we don't, that's lovely. Thank you. Okay. Amanda, would you like to clarify what we're hearing here?
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. We're reviewing a condition 46 of the premises license. I'd like to start off by saying that we need to make some amendments to the papers to make it clear for everyone and to be transparent as to what we are considering. Members are not, this isn't an application. Unfortunately, in the papers, it may have been referred to throughout different parts in all the representations and in the report that it's an application, but actually isn't. It's actually just the review and consideration of condition 46. So basically, if I take you to the licensing report at paragraph 1.1, an amendment needs to be made there to remove the words "the application" because it's a review of a condition. Next, at paragraph 12, the options available to the members are that firstly, option 1 is that they consider whether or not to approve the condition as proposed to allow Hande Sezgin to still be permitted on the premises of Unit 7, but to take away the management aspect of that condition. And option B is to refuse the proposed condition that's been given by the representatives of Unit 7. So those are the two options available, either to grant the proposed amended condition, or secondly to refuse it. The representations that have been submitted, the licensing authority have referred to the again to this as an application, but actually it's not. So again, if I can just ask members to bear in mind, it is a review of a condition. Again, in the representations made by the ward councillor and local residents, they've referred to it as application for a premises license. It's actually a review of a condition. So just to make it very clear for all parties that they're only considering the proposed amendment to this condition. And that's because that is the basis of the appeal. This hearing is basically the result of the appeal being put on hold whilst the Magistrates Court has referred this matter back to the licensing subcommittee to review this condition specifically to see whether or not this appeal can be resolved in that way. So that's the purpose of today's hearing. So it probably may not follow the full format of what we would normally do, but it's sufficient enough for the parties to make their representations. Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. Suba.
Sorry, Chair. It looks like the Osman Road representative is not in this meeting, so I have to give a quick call to check where they are around.
So that's Mr. Dadds.
Yes.
Yeah, I think he attended earlier and then he left.
Yeah, he left. So we might actually give him a quick call to find out where he's just.
Well, he did email me to ask whether or not he needed to attend, and I then, but he did that. I only saw the email at 2 o'clock, so I responded to him to say that there wasn't a need for him to attend. He was asking whether or not members needed to ask him any questions. Do you need to ask him questions? Would you like him to attend on that basis?
No, I don't think so.
No, I did say that you had all the information that you needed. He was just concerned that you focus specifically on the condition and not the license, obviously, because this isn't to do with the license as a whole. It's just the condition.
Okay.
That's fine.
So,
so Suba, you can continue as normal. Thanks.
Yeah. Suba, do you want to outline where you think we are? I think Amanda's pretty much done it, but
Yeah, maybe I can just outline it if needed to. If you want me to read it, you can.
Yeah, no, just do it. Let's just do it for the record.
Yeah,
for the record, please. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Chair. A premises license was granted to Unit 7, 224 Osman Road on 22nd of April 2021 at the licensing subcommittee hearing. The applicant appealed the licensing subcommittee's decision to the Magistrate Court to appealing condition 46 within the license only. On 6th of August, the parties agreed to refer the condition back to the Council's licensing subcommittee to review condition 46 of the license and decide whether to amend the condition as proposed by the license holder's legal representative so that Handy Seskin is excluded from the management of the premises, but not excluded from the premises in its entirety. Representations have been received from those that made representation at the licensing subcommittee hearing in April, the licensing authority, and the ward councillors who is representing the other persons. The licensing authorities have submitted additional information which has been circulated. I have nothing else to add. Thank you, Chair.
thanks. That's really helpful. That's a lovely outline of where we're up to. Thank you. Okay, so the procedure would be, I mean, we understand that Mr. Dadds has simply submitted a letter saying that the proposed, outlining basically the amendment that they're seeking, as you've said. So we're now hearing from the responsible authorities who do not think that this condition should be amended. And so I will go over on that basis to ask for their representations. Channing, do you want to go first, please?
Thank you, Chair. So essentially, in our view and our experience with Hande Sezgin in particular, we don't feel that the condition should be amended. And this goes to the history as well since the decision of the subcommittee in April, what's happened in the last 6 months. So you'll see in the representations I've submitted, there is the comments by the magistrate regarding Hande Sezgin. And there is a matter of public record now that the business, U7 Limited, which Hande Sezgin is the sole director of, essentially has now gone into insolvency. And it was suggested at the previous committee hearing that this license was being applied for as a backup if they lost the appeals. Now they've subsequently lost those appeals, and if there's no business owned by Hande Sezgin, what is her involvement with the premises to such a degree that this condition needs to be amended? That would be the question for the licensing authority. And also, given that this condition was suggested by the applicant, which they've now appealed, what have they sort of shown us? How can they demonstrate that it's appropriate to promote the licensing objectives when in our dealings with Hande Sezgin, we've had significant reason to carry out formal actions in terms of reviews and going on to subsequent appeals. So we don't feel that there's enough at this point for us to say that condition should be amended. And even at the present time, we are still receiving concerns from residents about the premises as it's being operated currently. So to have Hande Sezgin on the premises, or what's been suggested, whereby the person can be on the premises but not involved in the management, that condition to us seems sort of unenforceable, because there's no way for us to define if that person is involved in the management or not. If they're on the premises, it's not something we can enforce. What's been outlined by the committee previously is a clear enforceable condition. So we would ask the committee to remain with that condition. Nothing further to add, Chair.
Thank you. Any clarification?
So is the evidence you've had from residents that she is currently breaching the condition agreed in April?
Well, Chair, that is what has been submitted by the residents, but because the condition is under appeal, then it makes it difficult for us to enforce. But the residents have suggested and have made submissions to us that they are still involved significantly in the operation of the premises.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay. Kerry Ryan, do you want to have put your?
I'm just observing, Chair.
You're just observing, so we don't have a representation from the police. No, sorry.
No.
Cool. Okay.
Next, I think it's Councillor Adams.
Absolutely. Councillor Adams, do you wish to say something about this?
Yeah, good afternoon, Chair. So, I think, like Shannon said, there has been a lot of complaint of late about his nickname is Smiley, that has been actually involved in the operation of running the premises. They've actually sent a picture of the guy down to us, and they've been operating beyond the time that they're supposed to be operating. Several emails have been sent to me, which I forwarded to the license committee and the ASB team. So, not only that, it's been going around intimidating the residents, trying to, prevent them from complaining and so on and so forth. Actually, they've given me a statement that I need to read, but I think it's circulated to you. I don't want to waste much of your time reading it to you. But the problem is that they actually said that this condition that they are appealing was their own suggestion at the last subcommittee hearing. So, like waking up the following morning objecting to it was really, unbelievable. So they are actually objecting to their own proposal. That was the reason that the license was granted by the subcommittee, one of the conditions. And they promised that they were going to be having meetings with the residents and the councillors, which they haven't done. I've seen the guy, I've seen his picture, I've never met him. He has never spoken to anybody. The only thing I've heard of him is intimidating the residents. So, I'm taking the same position as as Shannon, that the condition shouldn't be varied.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Can
you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Adams. That's really helpful. Can we just clarify what the relationship is between Smiley and the person named in the condition, if any?
Chair, I believe at the previous subcommittee hearing, it was mentioned by the applicant's representative that Smiley was a relative of Hande Sezgin.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
But just for clarity, you're not alleging that Smiley is this Hachi Ozturk, who is the other applicant.
Chair, the residents have made submissions that that is the case. However, we've been unable to verify that ourselves.
Okay. And in the last hearing, the hearing when this condition was put on, was evidence given then of intimidation of residents?
It was, Chair, but I believe the committee granted the license believing that Hande Sezgin would be removed from the premises.
Okay. Okay. My question now is the same as for the last one. Is there more information that we need to have before we pull this to a close? Brian?
Well, just for the record, to mention that Mr. Rivera sent a pack of information, and it included, for example, that it may be a planning permission for the outside use of the premises has since been refused as well, though we understand it's a separate regime. And he also submitted proof that the business has gone into liquidation, leaving the question of who's actually running this premises quite mysterious.
But we certainly understand that the subcommittee that put this condition on the licence understood a situation there that they were concerned about. They believed and were encouraged to believe that this condition would be helpful. It was suggested by the management of the premises, and it included exclusion from the premises. We've only been asked that the person concerned should be allowed to come on the premises, but it has been raised to my mind quite justifiably that then makes the condition difficult to enforce, and also because when a manager comes onto a premises, they are actually managing that premises by being there in a particular way, and it's presumed that the subcommittee were concerned about that. So unless what I've said there goes against what anybody says, I think we will retire to make our decision. And thank you very much to everybody for giving us this information.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, bye.